The idea behind eliminating the pedestrian cross button and how more work needs to be done on communication points for the coronavirus. You might have noticed in the past few months you don't have to push the button for pedestrian crossings anymore. This is because cities are working on minimizing the transmission of the coronavirus. Today I'll talk about why it's a big deal to eliminate these buttons, communication points in general, and what contact lists can look like in the future. You've seen this before. You're at a green light, the right hand is up though, so as a pedestrian you're not supposed to cross. Instead you're supposed to push the button, wait for it to give you a green man or a white hand, and that means then you could go, though sometimes I or many other people would just go anyways, watching for cars of course. Sometimes the light is red, the hand is red, and you have to press the button, otherwise it will literally never change, because otherwise the traffic signal doesn't actually know you're there. When I bicycle, I notice whether or not there's a bike symbol on the ground. If there is, that should mean the traffic sensor can tell I'm there. I don't need to walk over to push the pedestrian crossing button. If there's no signal, it can't sense the bike and I need to walk over. Because normally sensors are built into the ground. There's an induction sensor. If you have a large metal object above it, it completes the circuit. And thus the traffic signal controller is notified you're there, waiting, work on turning the light green for you. But a bike is so small it doesn't register because these things were built for cars. And there's no way for a computer to know humans are there because we don't have any metal. There have been many people who complain about the need for pedestrians to push the button. Obviously, this is for cars to be more efficient. If there's a timer signal, everybody has to wait. Currently, it's mainly the pedestrians waiting. The traffic system is designed to let the cars go as quickly as possible. They sense their arrival, change the light for them, whereas a pedestrian, you push and then you wait. The obvious reason the buttons the pedestrians push are bad is they could be contaminated. Every pedestrian touches them. You have no idea what the other person has on their hand. And when you walk outside, you don't have to touch many things, but this button, you do have to touch. This disgusting button, because you'll never get a signal to cross the street otherwise. And that's why many cities are getting rid of these, not using their fancy sector technology spent tens of thousands of dollars to build, and just setting the streetlights on a simple timer-based system. And that's good for reducing communication points to coronavirus, shared physical points of contact at the cost of efficiency. But what about elevators? There's no timer system for the elevator. You better press that button or you're not going to go anywhere. Unless luckily somebody is getting out right when you're getting on. And then there's the issue of the buttons inside. You have to press them as well, otherwise they don't light up and you can't get to your floor. I'm sure you could wait to see if magically somebody calls the elevator up to your floor. I'm guessing you won't be quite so lucky though. There is a solution. Just have an elevator that stops at every floor. In New York, where there are many Orthodox Jews, they have elevators that are designed to do just that. Because for these Jews on a Sabbath, they're not allowed to do work, and they consider pushing elevator buttons work. Or you could possibly have an elevator attendant, but you know that costs money. We all like to save money. And anyways, this person is now exposed to everybody else and can possibly pass on the coronavirus as well. You may have seen these. Some people call them sweatshops, but they're just factories of people sewing clothes. Each person has their own sewing machine. Often these are in Asia, other places where labor is cheap. But there are also automated machines. The idea is to use less people. It's called technology, making things faster, cheaper, more efficient. And that's why they have books on traffic signal design. They have degrees in traffic engineering because we want traffic to continue flowing. Even though there will be many cars on the road, we want signals to be efficient to make drivers wait as little as possible. This is Vietnam. I've been there. They do have stoplights. You have to look for them though. They're very tiny and it's hard to see. They're timer based though. But traffic, as you can see, doesn't flow very quickly in Vietnam. In the West, we like things to be efficient. We like to go quickly. I could drive 60 miles an hour normally. Though in traffic, it may take 2 hours to drive 60 miles. In Vietnam, you can go 5 miles. No traffic, half an hour. Traffic, an hour, hour and a half. If there's a celebration after the soccer game that night, oh, forget about making it home. And that's the issue with communication points. Why do we have them? They're not designed for the virus to communicate. They're designed for us human beings to communicate with machines, with computers, because I have yet to see an elevator that's voice activated. We all know there's kiosks in which to order food. There's kiosks at the airport to check in. There's kiosks for everything, I guess. They reduce interpersonal contact, but they themselves are a communication point for the coronavirus or other diseases. They're replacing one contact out of one human being with another contact out of a human being and a machine. But the machine meets one after another human being. Ideally, the machines would get wiped out after every person, and currently, yes, shopping carts are getting cleaned off, but that's a lot of work. So they've been working on antimicrobial coatings. This one that's just been developed by the University of Arizona. It's not actually in practice yet, but it's the newest, bestest thing, and it kills the virus after 2 hours. It actually reduces the amount by 90% in 10 minutes, and after 2 hours it's 99.9%. Meaning if it's constantly being touched, the virus keeps getting its life extended because there's new virus being added constantly. People are designing things not to be touched as well. Our shoes are dirty, we all know that. We don't touch our shoes and eat with our bare hands after. We have to clean our hands after touching the bottom of our shoes. And they made a design so the crosswalk buttons can be kicked by your shoes instead of being pressed by your hands. And of course, the ultimate goal is contactless. Pizza Hut in China, KFC, they announced this push a long time ago. In the US, there's now many places offering contactless discovery as well. And yet a KFC worker was infected. How did he get it? Well, I don't know, but it seems logical through the fact he works at KFC. He still has contact with people. Contactless doesn't mean you have no contact with people. And guess what else? His main job is food preparation, so it's sort of the worst position to be in. So it still doesn't seem completely safe. So what's the solution? Seems all of our modern technology hasn't been able to help us out here. Well, it's actually pretty simple. Sanitizer, sanitation, cleanliness, good hand hygiene. If everybody cleaned their hands before touching an elevator, you think it'd be safe, right? No. Because it just takes one person who didn't clean their hands to give it to everybody else. But if everybody cleaned their hands after touching these buttons, then you wouldn't have to worry about it because it wouldn't be able to spread further than the elevator button. If you sanitize before touching a button, if the button is dirty, your hand will get dirty. Yes, if you don't sanitize before touching a button, you may get the button dirty. But either way, your hand will get dirty from touching a button and you need to clean it afterwards anyways. If you sanitize after touching a button, your hand is now clean and you can touch your face. You're fine. Because the most important thing is to keep the most important communication point clean. And there's no amount of technology, no amount of development that can achieve this ultimate goal. Universally clean human beings who can't get infections? Humans are the most important communication point. As this illustration from the New York Times shows, just one person can break the communication chain, which means just one person can pass it on as well. If you don't know how to wash your hands properly, or use hand sanitizer, I'll put some links at the bottom to videos below that are very entertaining and yet also informative. The problem we talked about today is communication points to the coronavirus. How studies are trying to help by removing the need to press pedestrian cross buttons. Companies are coming out with antimicrobial sprays that kill the coronavirus, but that doesn't solve the biggest problem. The biggest communication point, which isn't a button, but rather the human being, and how we need to change our behavior to ensure good hand hygiene after touching things, not before, so we could avoid getting contaminated with the coronavirus and passing it on. Thank you for listening.